find out. If the professor isn't here in 15 minutes, we're legally allowed to leave. You're legally allowed to leave whenever you want. You're an adult. You don't have to be here. This is not compulsory education in the state of Wisconsin. Um, However, then you don't get credit, which is also fine. It's up to you. Yeah, ooh, I'm gonna assume that the lull means that y'all heard what I just said. I'm gonna start up the game in a second. I was trying to get it so that the chat would show up on the screen. Whether or not I was successful in that, in a meaningful way, looks like nope. Oh, I see what's happening. Yeah, I super messed up the chat window. I will be playing The Witcher, and I am also going to just remove um, the chat thing for now. I think we have better things to do than play tech support for the prof. Um, how many words are needed for a thoughtful reply? So it's not about word count, it's about being thoughtful. All right, let's boot up this game. Toss a bit to your streamer. Oh, valley of Twitchverse. Oh, valley of Twitchverse. My voice is very low. Let me see if I can punch it up a bit. What's my gamer score? Let's see, you guys don't hear the game, do you? Yeah, rip Cyberpunk 2077 because wow, was that the most messed up release in a long time.
His name was Geralt of Rivia.
It was a nightmare. I hope that they fix it. I have
monster
not bought the
slayer,
game yet, but I would actually like
unusual
to. I like the
contract
idea of the
to
concept,
lift
and I
the
would really
curse
like to
that
play
held
it.
a monarch's daughter. It
But
was
we'll see
enough
what
to spend
happens.
the night with the princess.
Alright,
Dusk
so
till
what you're
dawn.
seeing right now
If
is
only she were
the
not a
game
deadly
introducing
beast,
you to a
a
little bit of the
Striga.
backstory.
The traitor
This is the
responsible for the
first
curse
Witcher. This
became
is
the
the
bait.
original. I can turn down the game volume a little bit. Just give me 1 second. All right, hopefully that that helps. Um, okay, so today is actually a very important lecture because we are going to talk about G's learning principles. I will not cover all of them because we literally don't have time. But I am starting Witcher 1 over right now so that you can see how one learns how to play, in this case, Witcher 1. So the game audio is still jumping. It's probably just too far down now. I literally can't adjust it without pausing the game. Because one thing that kind of sucks is the fact that this game is so old that it actually kind of messes with my new computer. Alright, so as I was saying, I'm gonna just talk over the cutscene. You have to use the piece that you read for this week for your paper. You are required to choose 2 or 3 of G's principles to use in your paper. And that's part of the reason why today's lecture is so important. The other reason why is because even though I won't go over all of the principles today, again, because time, I'm going to make references back to them frequently throughout the semester. And I'm going to expect that you know these. You don't have to like memorize the article word for word, but you should have a pretty solid idea of what's happening in this article. And if you don't, at the end of this week, you know, between the discussion section and then also this lecture, you should talk to me or your TA, or we can have a discussion in Discord, because these concepts are really important. All right, so what I'm going to do is let's get down with some of the topics for today. Let's cover what we need to cover, and then for the last 15 or 20 minutes of class, I will field questions about your paper. But I actually want to do it in that order for a couple of reasons, starting with the fact that your paper is based on this. So I think having an idea of the principles is going to help you put together your results. I would not say that there is a certain principle that is most critical. Different types of games employ different principles. And so it depends on the type of game you're talking about, because you're not going to employ all of them in every game. All right, so one thing I will say before I start lecture proper, though, is also remember that, and a couple of people have already asked about the participation credits in channel. Not sure if everyone was here when that happened. It's a little before class actually started. Lecture participation credit starts this week. So within this lecture, I will be, pardon me, the ponytail hits against the back of the chair. I will ask you 2 to 3 discussion questions. You have to give me a thoughtful response. Thoughtful doesn't mean there's a certain word count. However, I will tell you this. If you answer in 1 word, that's not thoughtful. If you give me a dissertation that fills up the whole screen, that's fine. I will count it, but it is unnecessary. You only need to answer 1. You can also ask a thoughtful question, but it has to be a question that really gets into a deep meaning of the article. And I'm going to be more strict on these than I am with your answers. And the reason why is because people have tried a lot of stuff in the past, like asking me questions about the assignment doesn't count. Asking me my opinion on the article doesn't count. Asking another student their opinion on the article doesn't count. The type of thing that would count would be questions that are similar in quality to the ones that I ask you for discussion, i.e. these have to be questions that would trigger discussion among the people. That is the type of thing that will get you credit. So when it comes to you asking a question, pay attention to the types of questions I asked today, and then maybe that's an option you can use later on. How old is this game? Super old. I want to say it came out in like 2007? I think it's 2007. If not, it's close to that. All right, so
Though gravely wounded, the Witcher lifted the curse and
the
gained
intros
fame. The world
are
changed with the coming of the Great War. The time of
the
the sword
intros of
and
the Witcher
axe.
games
The
are often
time
this
of
long.
disdain.
That is true. Of the games
Geralt
I
of
will be
Rivia
playing,
disappeared.
no. The other thing
Now but
is I will
forgotten.
often not play the
But
intro of a
that's
game for a
another
class. The
story.
reason I'm doing it now is because I have other things to say. And there's no reason for us to just sit at a screen that says start game. And because we're talking about G's principles today, right? And so there are three types of, there's three categories that he puts them into. Empowered learners, problem solving, and understanding. Now, under empowered learners, one of those is identity. And the cutscene that you just watched, or not watched if you're paying more attention to chat, um, sets up your identity as a Witcher. This is an RPG, right? So you see a battle that Geralt had to take on, and that's going to help you get into the character. And getting into the character is going to help with identifying with him. And by doing so, you can then learn more. Um, Now, a lot of times when it comes to educational games, this is a question of taking on the role of, say, a taking on the role of something like a scientist, for example. If you can imagine yourself as a chemist, then you will have an easier time learning chemistry. Um, I didn't want to do an educational game for today, in part because of the of your options for the paper. A lot of people don't choose to do educational games, so I wanted to give you a commercial example. Um, is there character overlap between Witcher 3 and Witcher 1? Yes. So like Triss is in
The
both,
northern
Geralt's in
kingdoms nursed their wounds for
both.
5 years after
Some of
the
the
Great
towns you
War.
go to are the same.
Plague and famine raged, the death toll unknown.
When it comes
A few surviving elven and dwarven units sought refuge in its
so here now you're getting
forests,
some
where
history
they
of what's
prepared for a
happening
final,
in this
desperate
world.
fight.
When it comes to
Beasts
getting
roamed backwoods,
confirmation
highways,
for a
and
game that you
former
can do for your paper,
battlefields
you
alike.
have to get verification from your
In
TA. I
cities and
won't give it to you.
villages, folk were
What
left
I will say
wondering
is that good
what
games
had
are
happened
long
to the
games
Witchers.
that you
The
can
Blue
play
Mountains in the north
for,
of Kedwin. The year
like,
1270. 5
if you can
years
finish a
after
game in
the
less
Great
than 20
War.
hours, I'm going to say that's a really bad idea. And you shouldn't use it. That's not okay. The chances of you, oh God, I hate this part. It makes me dizzy. The chances of you doing very poorly on your paper or struggling with your paper if it's that short is highly probable. I apologize. I had to cut that cutscene because I actually will get motion sickness from that type of video work. Okay, so what do we have right here? What do you see on your screen? It's a tutorial, but a tutorial, it's not a fish tank. You don't see a fish tank on your screen. Come on now. All right, Jackhammer, thank you. This is information on demand. You're the closest so far. What comes with information on demand? Tutorial is not. In time, information in time. Thank you. So this is information in time, right? So in time, the first thing I need to do is know how to equip a sword. Otherwise, I can't fight, and this is largely a fighting game. Now, somebody please explain to me, here's your first discussion question. What is information in time? And what is information on demand? And I need you to define both of them in such a way that it's clear how those two are different. Because I feel like people often confuse those two. And a lot of you in chat are obviously confusing those two because you guys tried saying that this was information on demand, but it's not. It's information just in time. So, answer that question which nobody has given a long enough, thoughtful answer of that. Fun employed, you have answered half my question, but my question was two parts, right? Information just in time and also on demand. All right, so I'm going to start up here a little bit. Where are, oh, there's this here. All right, so now our tutorial is giving us more information just in time. I learned how to pick up the sword, and then the next thing it tells me is how to attack an enemy. And now it's going to tell me how to work the camera, which is also helpful, because sometimes if you can't see the enemy, you're going to have trouble in combat. Okay, wow. Cat's being super needy right now. That looks like a bad guy. And a kill. Cool. So one thing that they don't tell you, but anyone who's played a game would know, is that the guys with the red name are bad guys. That's pretty standard.
How do you feel?
Fine.
Anyone know who the intruders are?
Ordinary bandits would never attack Kaer Morhen.
That we know,
Information
Marigold.
in
You could try
just
some of
in
your
time
famous
is
magic.
info
In due
given
time,
when
Lambert.
they, which
Enough.
I think you mean the designers,
We need to
think
check
you
the
need
other
it for the
possible
game.
passages to the upper
Yep,
courtyard.
that is true. What is on demand? Let's check this out. Information on demand would be considered immediate response and access of answers and information. Right. So, if I had... That is not what I wanted. I think I can't access information on demand during the tutorial, so we'll deal with that later. Unfortunately, I missed the dialogue, so I don't actually know what I'm supposed to do. When in doubt, follow your comrades. Okay, so I saw some good answers for the just-in-time and on-demand. Tried to read some of them, but chat's going kind of fast, so we'll leave that there.
What's happening?
They're trying to break down the gate.
They won't get anywhere without a battering ram.
I'm gonna pop over here though, just because this is the first 4-credit participation. Okay, so not all of these answers are correct. So information that is given on the screen, all of the information is given on the screen. We're talking about video games here. Information just in time means the content players can actually put to use in the games. Nope, those two are the same thing. Saying that you can put to use in the game and the content players would feel they need to continue the game. Those are the same thing. So that's also not what we're looking for here. Information in time would be something like in-game pop-ups, correct, which is what you just saw. You guys kept saying tutorial, but those it's an in-game pop-up that tells me what I need, and the pop-up tells you that information when you need it. It is just in time, right? Like you catch something before it falls to the ground because you caught it just in time, right? And it helps you with controls and mechanisms of the game. So it can help you with all sorts of things. You can get story hints and other things besides just control and mechanisms. Information on demand would be like the question mark that the player can click at any time to gain more information about the game. Right, it's on demand. You look at it when you want. It's like TV on demand, right? You don't have to watch at a specific time. You can watch it whenever you want. So, Sal Bert Bjornstein, I hope I said your name right. That is a great example of participation credit right there. It fully answers the question. It answers the question correctly, and it seems thoughtful. It uses examples, like he even said, or they said, you know, the question mark in parentheses, in quotation marks. That is, that's what I'm looking for from you.
A bit
All
down
right, let's
here
go back
before
to
we...
the
Alone?
game.
They're just bandits, though one might be infamous. You must open the gate. We'll be waiting. Good luck,
All right,
Wolf.
so now, and here's the other thing. Right now, at timestamp 2:53, we are cutting off 4 credits for that question. We will get to the next question shortly. Follow the minimap marker to find a quest objective. Alright, so... chain attacks. To a flaming sword. Okay, so we want a flaming sword. And still try to go toward that red dot, which if I remember correctly, is up here. Like I said, I did actually play this game before. It's been a long time since I've gone through the tutorial. Left click to finish them off. Yeah, finishing moves. They're graphic. Hope no one's squeamish. Maybe I should have mentioned that before the game started.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so that's a very good point. I'm not sure if you were responding to somebody else, but the idea of teaching somebody about a horse right now is not useful because the horse doesn't appear for 3 hours, right? Which also means that if the game taught me how to ride the horse right now, what would likely happen is that I would just forget that information. Which is why just in time is actually very important. Timing is everything. Would this introduction level be considered a fish tank since it serves the purpose of introducing key mechanics? Alright, that is an excellent question. And the reason I think it's an excellent question is because that was actually going to be my next participation question. So I will answer you, but I want to give everyone else a chance to answer first. So there's 2 concepts that students often confuse with each other, and that is fish tank and sandbox. I will tell you that this is one of those things. Tell me which one it is and why. And by the why, I mean, don't just say it is X because that's correct. Tell me it is X because the definition of X is blah, blah, blah. And as you can see here in Witcher, it has blah, blah, blah. That's how you're going to answer that question.
Mess with me and die.
Yes, you could use that for your participation. Fish tank and sandbox, A or B, which one is this? It is only one of them.
I'll make you squeal.
Oh my god, I hope I don't die while I'm trying to read chat. I do that sometimes. Right, so everyone who is just saying fish tank, that's no credit. You have to tell me why, or it doesn't count. You can no longer get credit for the information in time. That ended 3 minutes ago. We are on to the next discussion question now. Do I go home? I think so. Okay, so I haven't read all of the responses, but of the ones that I've read, a lot of you are seeing some good things, and you're like almost there. You're almost to the answer. So the fact that it's at the beginning of the game does not answer the question, because sandboxes are also very often at the beginning of the game when they are used for the tutorial. Let me see if I can... Okay, so no, the fact that this is a tutorial doesn't make it a fish tank. You can have a tutorial without it being a fish tank. You can have a tutorial and it's a sandbox instead. So a lot of people really aren't getting to the difference between a fish tank or a sandbox.
You'll regret the day you were born.
Although partly some of you don't have it, in part because I'm literally doing too well, having played this game before. So the main difference between a fish tank and a sandbox is that the sandbox is safe and a fish tank is not. So a lot of you, class Twitch account is, sorry, I find that funny. Hold on. So they're both scaled down versions, right? I mean, I'm in the world, but I'm in Kaer Morhen. I can't leave Kaer Morhen. It's very structured, and it is stripped down. There's not all of the enemies. I don't have access to the whole world. I don't even have access to all of the attacks. Like, I can't do alchemy right now. This allows me to learn the basics of the game. Now, the reason that this is a fish tank and not a sandbox, and this is where I kind of said the problem is my playing right now, is that I could die. In fact, the very first time that I played Witcher 1, I did in fact die in the tutorial. And that's because it's not safe. You're seeing me take very little damage, because it is safer than the real world. But mostly you're not seeing me die, because this is now the third time that I've played this tutorial. So structure is just kind of... So really I would say that safety is the major defining difference between the fish tank and the sandbox. Both of them are stripped down, both of them are removed from the whole game, from the whole world. Both of them are simplified versions of the game that are used for tutorial purposes. However, the sandbox is safe. I would take no damage. I could not die. Whereas a fish tank, there is still risk. It's less risk, but there's still risk. I could die here. Both of them allow the player to practice skills, to learn the game. Does a fish tank necessarily have to be a scaled down version of the game, or is it the main difference? So a fish tank necessarily is a scaled down version of a game, but so is a sandbox. The main difference between sandbox and fish tank is the question of safety. I said, did I misspeak? Yes, the article says the sandbox is the safe one. That is correct.
I'll make you squeal.
Mago number 5, that is correct. You can't expect your stars to feel too much pressure, understand too little, feel like failures. What will happen is they will just they'll get frustrated and they leave, and then they won't play the game. Speaking of, has anyone ever done that? Taco Cat, so conclusion for staying evil, you can die in a tutorial sandbox, pretty much invincible. Yes. Good way of putting it. So question, and you can take a few more minutes to answer this question or add to it for credit, that's cool. Has anyone ever had an experience where they picked up a game and then never made it past the tutorial? Like the tutorial was so bad or non-existent that they just decided that it was not worth playing the game. Somebody said Dark Souls. Amen to that. Dark Souls 2. Yes. Death Challenge tends to make you want to play more to beat it. Yep. So Death and Challenge are very important to making people want to play games. However, if a tutorial is so bad that it cannot teach you how to play, that's what I'm looking for. Somebody said RuneScape. Interesting. I haven't played RuneScape, so I'm not sure what it's like. Getting over it. I mean, the whole game. Yeah, so do I have magic yet?
I'll make you squeal.
Oh, Don't Starve is an interesting one. So let's talk about that for a minute since somebody brought it up. So I almost chose Don't Starve for this class lesson today. And I decided not to because at this point I've put so many hours into this game that I don't think I could. Oh, come on. I don't think I could effectively do it. Although right now I'm not really effectively doing it all that great here. Yeah, so Don't Starve really doesn't have a tutorial. What Don't Starve does is they place you in the world and you just die your way through. And as you die and as you explore, you do learn more and more. But there's no linear way. So what most people do, or what many people do in learning Don't Starve, is they go outside of the game. And that's a legitimate way to learn, right? So if anyone is doing something like that for their papers, you can cite how people use a wiki or how you had to use a wiki in order to learn the game. I know that that's how I learned it. I also know that that's how a lot of people learned it because I have watched many streamers play it, and they talk about using wikis or chat in order to learn the game. And also, like in watching them, I have learned a ton about how to play the game. You know, or watching playthroughs on YouTube, right? That's another way that people learn these things. Beans and blood.
Die, bastard!
But yeah, so at this point, I know, like, there are professional designers who have straight out said that they assume that there will be a wiki made and that it will be fan run, and therefore they don't bother putting a tutorial in.
You'll regret the day you were born.
That's a choice. Don't Starve is definitely not a fish tank. Or I don't know, make an argument for that. Can I don't own a Mac and don't know what would be Mac friendly or not. I need to open the gate. So I'm not sure what to say about that other than dual boot Windows maybe? Is there a game that combines fish tank and sandbox? So you couldn't combine the two at the same time. That would like definitely not work. I'm trying to think if there's any game where they utilize both, like maybe one and then the other. I don't know. I can't think of anything at the moment.
Damn it, Geralt. It's a miracle you're alive.
You could have told me about the stairs.
Lambert and Eskel were supposed to fix them yesterday.
We're not masons.
No matter. The professor and the other mage must be hiding in the keep.
Sandbox
Face
games
the
are
truth,
also
witches.
a type of
They're
game.
here to rob you.
Triss, child, we have nothing of value. Some good steel snow fox pelts.
I mean the laboratory and you know it. Someone wants your famed
Like you could go
mutagens.
Minecraft.
You're
is a
jumping to
sandbox game.
conclusions.
Triss may be right.
But then we're talking
We need
about
to find
something
out what they
different.
want.
So a sandbox
One
type
thing at a
game.
time. We shouldn't
And a
turn our
sandbox for a
backs on a
tutorial.
strong mage leading a frightener.
And you can't let the
Are-
bandits in the lab.
Right as usual, Triss. Geralt, you've dealt with mages. Find out
A
what
little
this one
different,
wants.
but at the same time,
Leo
actually,
will guide you.
Minecraft can be
Just reconnaissance, or?
because you
No
can go into
one will be
creative
sorry if some of them lose their heads.
mode, which
You'll
then makes it
manage, Wolf.
safe.
Just
and
remember
you can play
Leo's
through the
with
whole
you.
game.
I can handle this.
We'll see what's happening inside and be back.
Take these
And,
potions
yeah,
just in
it's in
case.
safety mode.
Drink the Thunderbolt now and keep Swallow for when you need healing. I'll be able to tell you how they work. We'll make sure no one else gets inside. Triss, stay with us
Sandboxes
in case
also
Savola
are
has
not
any new
necessarily as
ideas.
simplified as fish tanks. That varies. It's really more about the pressure of not having to worry about failing. Alright. Alright, so to drink. Hours. It seems so long, so I'm going through Witcher 3 right now, and they're so short. Okay. Actually, takes pleasantly frustrating to whole new levels, doesn't it? Okay, so
What should I expect from the mage?
let's
Hard
see
to say.
what's
I know neither
next.
him nor his specialty, and I don't like the situation.
Meaning?
Someone powerful, capably disguised helps
so
Savola.
for the record,
Without
what I'm
that,
kind
I
of
would've
focusing
conquered
on
his defenses
here
in the
are
lower courtyard.
specifically things
Could it have
that
been the
you
mage we
tend to
saw?
struggle with.
Unlikely.
And
Geralt, please don't
that's
challenge
just to let
him.
you know how
We'll
I
see.
chose which ones I was going to talk about in class and which ones I was not going to talk about in class. So you are going to have, so actually you're probably going to get 4 discussion questions this time, which won't be the norm. 2 to 3 is usually the norm. But the next one is that there was another one under empowered learners, and that was the customized principle. You can tell me what the customized principle is.
Ready, Geralt?
Mm-hmm. Is this your first real fight?
Is it like
No, but I've
suddenly
never killed
harder
him.
to hear
Stay
now than it was
close.
before? Huh. Yeah, the lightning did get loud. No, the timestamp for the last question was now, because I forgot to call it. Alrighty. Okay, so this next one was about customize a couple people have already stated um, uh, that it's about customizing your learning style and your play style. Um, Now, already in the stream, you saw one of the ways in which this game could be customized. Can anyone tell me what it was?
You'll make a good swordsman yet.
I know. Every time Lambert beats me, he says I have potential.
The difficulty, Dirty Dan drinks Danimals. Right. So that was an example of customization. All right, now, customization is important because not all people learn in the same way. And this tutorial actually does a really good way of offering multiple avenues for people to learn. Some people learn really well by having something that they can read where it blatantly explains. Like here, evading enemies in OTS, over the shoulder mode, double tap a directional key, WSA or D to dodge enemies. Cool. But then they're also going to have me try and do that because for a lot of people, it is in doing that they actually learn the things. That is also a good point. So some games allow for different styles to work, and in others you customize the game to work for your style. Um, so those are two different options. Now, here is a very important question. I have in the past had so many students tell me that by customizing your character, like in character creation when you play like MMOs and stuff, that this was about customization. Why is that not true? Appearance not is a correct answer, however, it is not well thought out and will not count for credit. Correct. Now, there could be a scenario where you customize your character in such a way that that actually affects gameplay. Then that would be different. But then that would also have to be explained. If you're going to use that in your paper, you would have to thoroughly explain that. Let me give you a really good example. So I've played through. Oh my God. I've played through this game already, and there is some magic that you can use, and at first I didn't use alchemy, the magic, very much at all, because the tutorial doesn't really take you through it. And so the first time I played this, I was like, okay, I understand combat better, so I'm going to do it. I, however, as a person, don't do good with dodging. I'm not very spatial, and so very often if I play a game where I have to dodge, what happens is I run into walls or I get stuck because I just have problems. Oh, you know what? Group style is C. GG, game ran through. So I actually died a lot. I died so much in this game that chat, because I streamed it, demanded that I get a death counter, and that was embarrassing. But yeah, that's because for whatever reason, dodging because of my spatial issues is just really bad for me. Eventually, I figured out alchemy, and then by doing that, it made it much easier. Now you notice that when I was looking at the different difficulty levels, the easiest level actually says alchemy is not used. Because of my playstyle, there's a chance, although I never tried it on easy mode, that I actually would have done worse on that mode because I didn't have alchemy. So, but with stats, the stats have to be they have to meaningfully change play. Because there are games where you change stats and it doesn't meaningfully change play.
Is essential. I wield the power of the circle of elements. They are no threat.
Changing a character aesthetically can have a lot to do with identity. In fact, it's fascinating to look at when people will make avatars that look like themselves or not. Um,
We're cut off. The stairs are blocked.
The magic barrier looks solid. We need Triss.
They're robbing us. Geralt, clear the passage upstairs. Use a sign.
A sign?
The Ard. I can't do it since I broke my fingers training along the gauntlet. Cast the Ard at the debris.
I don't remember the signs.
Let's go to the Circle of Elements.
I agree that it's not just needed. The shaky cam.
All right.
So, in Noob the Legend, I'm not so I'm not 100% sure. My understanding when I read that is that it was disabled, but I could be wrong. What is gamer juice? What are you talking about? Okay. I see. I forgot how to use sigils. One of these buttons gotta do it. Not that button. Or that button. Come on. Oh. Can I use bug fix graphical mods on a game for my project? Maybe. Probably. That depends. Also not needed. Learn on demand and pull up the controls. If only there was a permission to band. Oh. Okay, so that is, yeah, if it's just a graphical mesh fixes, that's fine because it really doesn't really affect it. So that was an excellent point. So here I am sitting and I was just like, I can't remember this button, right? But I have information on demand. It's here. So fighting, signs, art is the one I need, and it's number 1. Okay, cool. Let's resume the game. I don't want to save this. One doesn't actually do anything. Huh, interesting. Oh, I wish I had a cat potion. Hate it when it looks all dark like this. Oh, because I didn't learn the sign yet. Cool, that's the problem.
Success?
Now I can
We'll
use
see.
it.
I knew it would work.
That's
Let's get
right,
back before
because
the
he has amnesia. One of the most common ways that storylines teach the player how to play, right? Because it doesn't make sense for me as Geralt to be learning these things because I should already know. I should be an expert. I am a witcher. I'm a grown-ass man. Um, but by giving the character amnesia, it allows me and the character, me as the player and me as the character, to learn together. Alright, press 1 to select the art sign, and then right-click to actually use it.
What did you learn?
The bandits are in the lab, searching for something. The mage used the circle of elements to create a magic barrier.
The plague. You're all children. Why didn't you mention the circle?
Triss, child, it didn't seem important.
If the mage aligned with the circle, he can create a stable portal through which he'll travel to anywhere on the continent, taking your equipment with him.
All right, we made a mistake, but you said the mage was harmless.
I said I didn't know him. I think we should protect the lab above all.
Don't panic, Marigold. We know you'd like to see our witch's secrets.
Vesemir,
Yeah, you have to screenshot it. You have to answer in
Lambert,
Twitch
stop baiting Triss.
for one of the
Show some
questions.
respect. Triss, if we go to the lab, they'll have us surrounded. We know tactics.
Maybe we
Okay,
should
so let's see.
Geralt's right. We need to
We
protect
covered
the
customization.
Frightener. Who goes where?
only I can break the barrier.
Do we need to edit the screenshots of our comments on questions to show which one is ours? Or do TAs know our names when grading? So they should know your name when grading because you have submitted that to Canvas. And if you didn't, you're not getting credit, full stop. If you look at Canvas, there's a screenshot there. And if you can in some way edit the screenshot, like put a circle around it, that would be very nice and helpful. Also, if you said two things that wind up on your screenshot, then you know you can make it obvious which one you want the TA to give you credit for. Yes, you also have to enable timestamps. That is true, actually, about the VODs, if you want to go through that trouble. Do you have to perfectly answer the question to get credit? I mean, perfectly? No. But you have to be close, right? So like before, there was a couple times I asked a question and people answered in one word, and there's no credit for that. Like you have to put a really good faith effort and show that you thought about it, and also show that you actually uh, read the article. For today, will be a little looser. Um, with how you get credit. But then pay attention to what I've said and to what your TAs have said, because like some of the excuses are coming in, like you haven't enabled time step yet. Is that okay? It's okay today, but next time it won't. You'll be 0 credit. How do I know if what I commented on is good enough for participation? See what your TA says about it today. See if, sometimes I also comment to let you guys know. If you give a very thoughtful answer, but it's wrong, um, you may get credit or half credit. It kind of depends. It kind of depends on how wrong you were. Like, was your answer thoughtful, but it was so wrong that it is very obvious to me that you didn't do the reading? You're not getting credit. If you can't see the history chat, you can go back to the VOD later. So I am going to just check and make sure I covered the things I really, really wanted to cover. Sandboxes, customize, cool. Um, let's talk about well-ordered problems, and then, ooh, it's 3:26, and then we will leave from there. So what are well-ordered problems? They are, hold on. I'm gonna go with Triss. Um,
Me too. It's decided then. Eskel and Lambert will stay with me.
So you actually saw a really good example of well-ordered problems through here, right? So the first thing I needed to do was pick up the sword and fight one guy. And then I fought two guys. And they were both sword guys, right? Then I moved up and I had to deal with archers. That is a step up, right? That is a new problem that's harder because they can hit me from far away, whereas I couldn't hit them from far away. Then I had two archers, right? Do we see how this goes? You start out real simple and then you build up in difficulty. But the steps below mattered. because I still needed to know how to fight with a sword to do the archers as well as the warrior guys, right?
This could be a hard fight, Geralt. Take this potion. Witchers call it the Tawny Owl. It restores endurance. Very useful when fighting mages.
Thanks.
If you are abroad and the timestamp shows your local time, simply note with your TA what the difference is. So for example, if you're like 2 hours out, just note that your time is 2 hours out. Which should be blatantly obvious too, because like the one question, I think I cut it at 2:12 or 3:12 was it? And then if your thing says like 5:12, oh obviously I wasn't streaming at 5 local time. All right. Okay. So, questions on, do we screenshot the entire stream or just response? Go
A bluff. He's
to
a
Canvas
teleportation.
and there are
Battle
examples
muster.
and make yours look like the example.
With the barrier.
Underestimating an opponent. Now the energy of my people will make me
Yeah, I feel like looking at the literal screenshot example is the better way to do it because then you can visually see. Whoa. Okay. What did he just call me? Oh, dang it. I just wasted it. Come on, man. Just stay still for a second. I know, that's not the way bad guys work. Recover by meditating, which you can't do in the middle of a battle. Do I have a swallow? I do. Yes. So the reason I keep accidentally pausing the game is because in Witcher 3, that's how you jump. Different style? Oh my goodness. This is Witcher 1. I don't think it's necessary to change your time zone. Like I said, just note and tell your TA that you're in a different time zone. Do you get credit for asking what about the time zone thing? No. I forgot how long and boring fights could be in Witcher 1. Don't get me wrong, I actually love this game. This series is wonderful. Skills and strategies? Sure. By the way, that doesn't count for participation. That's simply asking how to explain something in the article. Just pointing out for everybody else. So yeah, skills and strategies. So it's easier for people to learn a skill if they understand what it's for, i.e. it as a strategy for accomplishing a thing, right? So I was taught in this game the ARD sign and immediately given something that it would be useful for. And that means I'm much more likely to remember what it is and what it does. And that is an example of a skill as strategy. Using the art sign is a skill, and the strategy is for getting through brick walls, or also pushing down bad guys, as you can see here. You enable the timestamp by going under the little settings icon next to the chat button in the lower right hand corner of your screen. All right, are there any questions on the final paper? Like I asked that because I felt like a lot of people were trying to ask me about it before, but now that I'm actually giving you time for it. Did I just answer all your questions already? Is that what happened? There, now I got a bunch of those Bernie swords. That's what you want to see. That's how you kill the bad guy. Yes. What I expect for the proposal. So the point of the proposal is really to make sure that you have chosen an appropriate game, that you understand what the final paper is going to be about, and that you are going to be able to be successful in the final paper. Because I would hate for you to put in all of the hours playing a game and writing a paper just to find out that because of the game you chose or the plan that you had, there was no way it was going to work, right? So what you have to do is you tell me what game you're playing and then tell me a little bit about the game. Not a lot, because this should be a game that you have not played before or you have played very, very little. If you are already an expert in this game, then it's not an acceptable choice. So that's not what I'm looking for. Really, you could look up information from a wiki or from a Steam description, and that would probably give you enough information. Or maybe watch a playthrough or a Twitch streamer, only for an hour or two, or play yourself, but only play the game for an hour or two and then stop and then write the proposal. That's how much you need to know about the game. All right, and then from there, that should also tell you enough to know what of G's strategies you think you're going to use, and also tell me which paper option you're doing. So what do I mean by that? So if you were going to choose a game like Witcher, Witcher is not an educational game. So what you would be writing about is how the game teaches you to play. You can, however, choose a game like, let's say, okay, so earlier today I was playing a game called Code Combat. Code Combat teaches you how to code. You can choose between Python, C++, JavaScript, and something else. If I was doing that game, right, then I would be showing how the game teaches me how to code. So how the game teaches me how to do a thing, or how the game teaches you how to play. Those are your two options. Educational game means, like I said, Code Combat teaches me how to code. I also, actually I do a lot of work with educational games. I also have a game called Crazy Plant Shop. It teaches you about genetics. Math Blasters teaches you about math. Those are all educational games. That's what I mean. That being said, sometimes, although this is very hard, and not very common, I have had students write papers about a commercial game that was not designed for education, but that did teach people things. So most notably, I had a student write a phenomenal paper on how FIFA taught players about the economic concept of supply and demand. Now, be careful if you choose an option like that because one, it's much more difficult, and two, you better know that concept and what you're talking about way more than I would normally expect for a 200 level class. All right, so I'm going to cut off all answers to any discussion questions right now because we're going to move into just talking about the paper and class particularities. Oregon Trail teaches you to be a wealthy banker. Oregon Trail was a historical trail and it taught you about life in that time period, so you could completely use Oregon Trail. Card games like Hearthstone and Slay the Spire, what would Hearthstone teach you? I have no idea. Do we need to consult our TA about the game we choose before the proposal? So that it depends, right? So there are a list of games that are already okayed. You can find that in Canvas. You don't have to consult with your TA. But if you choose something else, then you should probably talk to your TA. Here's the thing. Here's why I say consult with your TA. Because if you choose a game and write a proposal, and it's a game that's not going to work for this assignment, then your TA is going to come back and say, this isn't going to work. Now you have to redo your proposal. That's why I say you should consult with your TA first so that you don't wind up having to redo your proposal. Because there are, frankly, games that just won't work for this assignment. And that's the problem. Is what private? Oh, FIFA markets. Could you do FIFA if you give a good proposal? You can do whatever you want if you get a good proposal. And get good. I mean, yeah, a lot of games really do just teach you how to get good. And that's legit. The thing is that the ways in which games teach you to get good are based in actual learning principles. They are actually methods that if you applied them to math, history, or anything else that you're learning in school, you would also get good at those things. Because these are proven methods. Games are actually very powerful learning machines, learning software that are sorely underutilized. Which is very unfortunate. Here's the thing, at the end of the day, even if you're not using the game directly, they're still powerful. Think about this lecture. What if this wasn't on Twitch? My very first year teaching this class, I taught it in a lecture hall. how much do you
How did
think
this happen?
you would have understood if I was standing in front of you in a lecture hall just talking at you?
These are bad times for witches. And
Maybe I
some of
could show a
Christ's
video that I'd have to
favorite
pause
witches
here and there or
still
throw up some
around.
pictures, but meh.
Relatively. Some stragglers up there,
I have
but a
literally
pretty
found that in
light.
doing this,
You look tired. I
people
grant
are
you the
more
rest.
engaged
I'll keep
and they
watch
learn
and
more,
tend to Leo's body.
right? And it's because I'm using games. Games are very visual and they also have these things like scaffolded learning, the well-ordered problems, the sandboxes, all of these things which work. Which work. We know they work. That's why I say games are such powerful, powerful teaching tools. Do games improving reaction times, etc., count as being educational? No, they don't count as being educational. Um, but a game, okay, so FIFA is not educational, but you still could successfully write a paper about how it teaches supply and demand. Okay, it doesn't have to be educational in order to teach you something. Does that make sense? So like FPSs improve reaction time. FPSs are not, in general, educational. Nobody's going to say that. Um, so excited to write about Dead Souls. Cool. Um, correct. You don't have to write about an educational game. You could write about Witcher. You could write about Witcher 1. Like you could choose this game, which would actually be like easy mode, right? Because you could choose this game and then you could come back to this lecture and I've basically laid out your entire paper argument. If your brain is oatmeal, I recommend both coffee and naps. They help a lot. Will there be a schedule of when we should play our game, like roughly how many hours we should play and have this done by date, or do we play whenever we can? So no, it's not whenever you can because you will notice that there is an assignment called a journal. And the journal
I'll find you later.
is a record of your playing. Um, and I don't remember the due dates offhand, but there's 3 of them due throughout the semester. And so you have to break up your playing over the span of the 3 journals. Now, if that means you play a couple hours per week, cool. If that means that you jam in 10 hours the day before each journal is due, that's also up to you. But you will have to spread it out at least a little bit
The smell is heavy.
um, because of the journals. Do developers actively think of these principles? Some do. I don't want to speak for all designers. I'm going to say designers, not developers, because really it's going to be the designers that are doing this. Um, where am I going? I needed to not do that. That's not what I wanted. That's also not what I wanted. There we go. Oh, this location's dangerous. That actually matters. Um, so what was I saying?
Yes?
You don't necessarily, so whether or not you need to finish the game depends on the game you choose, right? So you could also play a game like a large MMO, like, World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy 14, and spoilers, you're not going to finish it. There's no way, right? It's not possible. There's no finish. Um, However, if you play a game and time to complete is 20 hours, I expect that you would finish it because I expect that you're putting in 20 to 30 hours playing this game. Um, So I generally think it's okay to play a game that you've already played in the series. It's not the best idea. Okay, whether or not it's the best idea depends. Okay, so here's the thing. Let's say you have played Witcher 1 and you for your paper you want to play Witcher 3. That would be a great idea. And the reason I say that is because the controls and how the story and how everything works in Witcher 3 is so incredibly different that having played Witcher 1 is not going to help you at all. The problem with doing games in series is that sometimes, especially this seems to be true when games are released close to each other, um, the game plays the same, and the only thing that's changed is really the story, and that means you're not really learning anything new. So I don't want to say blanket across the board doing another game in a series is a good idea. Here's the thing to remember. This isn't about what's allowed or not allowed. Okay? The problem is if you already know how to play a game really, really well, then you aren't going to be able to write an effective paper because you're not going to, it's going to be harder for you to realize how a new player would learn these things. Does that make sense? Um, Point in case, I went through this tutorial and barely took a hit. The first time I went through this tutorial, I died because there was that learning gap, right? Like that learning curve where I was actually trying how to do things. Whereas this time around, I'm just like, it's cool. Like I already know how to do everything, right? So really think about don't think about is this game okay or that game okay, about getting permission, but think about what is going to help you write an effective paper, okay? And the less you know about the game and the more of a noob you are, the easier it is going to be for you to write the paper. Because then in your journal, especially in that journal one, you're going to be writing down how hard it was to understand X, how hard it was to get your fingers to do blah, 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 because you weren't used to those controls, that muscle memory, how hard it was for you to understand, for example, what was happening. For example, like I said, I just tried Code Combat earlier today, um, and there was a part, like an instruction that I didn't understand, and I had to ask somebody to explain it to me. If I had already played this game, I would have already known that and not registered that that was a thing that I didn't understand because I would have taken it for granted. I also understand that was a really long answer, but I feel like if you think about it in that way, it's going to help you choose a better game. Wait, what do you mean it's got to be in a certain format? The fact that there's no ending shouldn't affect your proposal at all. If you choose to play a game like World of Warcraft, first of all, you should have not played it before. And then you can just describe how you learned how to play it. You don't need to finish the game in order to learn how to play it. Um, can I not go this way? Maybe not. Do I want to go this way? I'm lost. I get lost very easily. Um, let's get out of here. I feel like this is the answer. So that's not a stupid question at all, Choo Man. Um, so I would recommend that I just went back into the thing. Dang it. Like I would recommend you wait until your TA has okayed your proposal if you want to think about this and you're a busy person and maybe you don't have time to like be messing around. But if it's a game you want to play anyways and you're not going to feel like you wasted your time,
Geralt, is something wrong?
no time to talk. I need to make a potion for Triss.
You should find a vial of
Like
white
basically I would say
powder.
you can start
Grab some calcium
playing
nectar
your
from the
game
wall.
once you're
Some black
sure that the
stones in one
game
of the
you play it
chests.
is going to be
If one of
okay.
the stragglers finish them, we don't need prisoners. The stairs are through that door. I'd go, but Marigold lies unconscious by the fire.
Can we write about how we are touched by the options and story in the final paper? I don't recommend it, unless that in some way adds to your learning experience. I have had students do that, and they tend to fail the paper because I don't care if you were touched by the story. I care that you learned how to play. Um, that would be a different paper for a different class. Um, you have until 4 o'clock, so you could go. Oh, class should be over. I just realized what time it is. Um, yes, you can go back in the VOD to scroll up if you need to. You should be able to, unless you like disconnected or something, scroll back up right now. Like you should be able to go into the chat and scroll up to find your thing. And once you have the timestamp up, it should say that going back. Well, Wazopolis, thank you for pointing out how to do that for me. Ipman, me? You want to meet with me after class? Yeah, sure. I have a few minutes. I can meet you over in Discord. The discussion should have ended like 10 minutes ago. My apology. Um, do, 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 do. Okay. Um, Yeah, the well-ordered problem is way to count. Okay, so that's it. If anyone has any more questions, feel free to talk to each other in Discord to answer some of these questions. You can go back to the VOD and find it that way. Shouldn't really take you more than 5 minutes. Um, and yeah, that's it. But lecture is over. Um, Thoughts on career mode in the sports game? Again, that depends. Depends on the game. All right. Good luck, everybody. Go forth and have fun. Bye.